Football's a strange sport, NFL. Because the season is 16 games long, you have to overreact to a loss. Seems to be the case. As I look at other power rankings and where people have teams, I'm like, really? You're going to drop them that much based on that one game that they lost by? All right. And so that's kind of where I feel that I somewhat differ, and yet when I look at them, there seems to be some agreement on who's contending and who's fallen out of contention. So here's your games for next week. I thought about putting up who I thought was probably going to win. I may do that at the end. I may. You guys will have to stick around till the end to find out if I do that or not. Number 32, they're 0-5. Miami. And Miami this week, they are, after their week off, going to Buffalo. So for people who don't think Buffalo is very good, and there are people who don't think Buffalo is very good, they're not going to get an answer this week. I guess if Miami were to go in and beat Buffalo, there's your answer. But if Buffalo wins, the excuse is going to be, well, yeah, but it's Miami, so it doesn't matter. Number 31. And at home against Jacksonville this coming week. They're 0-6. Cincinnati. It's not a proud time to be a fan of these guys. I know my jersey and hat don't match because whatever. Every week I do power rankings and somebody's like, hey, that jersey, how you've got that ranking there because that jersey you're wearing, like the jersey actually physically blanks out reality or something. So yeah, no. The Bengals, who I do cheer for, Tennessee, who I'm fond of the color of their jersey. In general, this season's been a disaster for Cincinnati. And it's just going to get worse, isn't it? Poor Andy Dalton. Number 30. These guys are 1-5. They won the battle between teams that, somebody had to win. And this week they're at home against San Francisco, and that is Washington. I do not anticipate Washington making it a winning streak of 2. I instead anticipate a losing streak starting all over again. They beat Miami by 1 point in what was a knockdown, drag-out. Can you want it? No, I don't really. Do you guys want it? Not really, no. Number 29, these guys are also 1-5. And it's been kind of a disastrous season for these guys. Looks like they have the week off, which is probably for the best. That's no. They're at home against the Rams this week. They're 1-5, and if you're a fan of Atlanta, it's been rough because Matt Ryan's numbers have been good. This isn't a matter of quarterbacking being the problem. Yards per game are good. His touchdown to interception ratio has been fine. Just in general, if it can go wrong, it does go wrong if you're a fan of Atlanta. And yeah, that's what's got them down to 1-5 and already thinking about next year. I should start calling them the Thrashers, shouldn't I? I mean, Thrashers was a bird too. Number 28, these guys are 1-4. They got the 1 this week. Looking for them on the board. They're at home against New England. It's the Jets. So for fans who have been waiting for New England to have a good opponent, this week they're going to be screaming, "Oh, come on," because I'm already hearing 16-0 talk, which is ridiculous, but I'm hearing it. And then you look at this week, and then next week New England plays Cleveland. So yeah, it's been kind of a fun schedule if you're a fan of the Patriots, or not fun. Maybe you want to see those big games, but after that they then play the Ravens, so they get into some decent competition then. Number 27, these guys are 2-4. They're at home against Arizona this week, and that is the Giants. Turns out the rookie quarterback not the answer right away. And so the Giants are kind of in this spot where we thought they might end up being, but at least we can say Eli Manning's time is probably about done in the National Football League. He's had a really good career, honestly. Doesn't necessarily get the respect he should, but he's had a really good career. Number 26, these guys are 2-3-1, so you know who it is right off the bat if you're a fan, and that is the Cardinals. They are, of course, in against the Giants in a battle between 26 and 27, which should be an epic collision of epic proportions between two kind of epic teams. I'm kidding, of course. But Arizona's had some bad breaks. Let's just call it how it is. They've had some bad breaks, and if they won that game against Detroit, they'd be 3-2 or 3-3, I should say, and then we'd have a whole different picture to look at. But as it is, yeah, I know there's Cardinals fans that aren't happy about where I have them, but there's fans who aren't happy about where I have everybody. So that's kind of how power rankings works. And thankfully, I've got years of experience with my National Hockey League power rankings on the Hockey Guy channel that I'm kind of used to this. Number 25. These guys are 2-4, and they are playing this week in Tennessee against these guys. The Chargers. As a Chargers fan, I want to say this is the most disappointing season that I've ever seen the Chargers have. And so I would not be surprised if they lose again this coming week. It's one after the other. The loss to Pittsburgh, that's a game you have to have, and they didn't get it done. So again, if you're a fan of the Chargers, as I am, and I, people talk about, oh, look, he's wearing this jersey, you must cheer for them. It's not how it works. It's not how it works for me. It's never been how it works for me with hockey, with all of the hockey. I cheer for the Bengals. I cheer for the Chargers. They're both in the bottom row. So there's no favoritism shown towards any team that I cheer for right now. At number 24, and they're at 2-4 as well, and at home against the Chargers this week, and that is the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans have a chance to turn things around with the San Diego, now LA team that is just disappointing, which is carrying over from San Diego. So Los Angeles, you're welcome, I guess. And for Tennessee, again, I will say this about the NFL. I think there's really good parity in this league. You can make the argument bad team, bad team, bad team. You can make the argument the Jets are a bad team. I'll grant that. And the Giants definitely have had their issues with their roster. But everybody else is a pretty good team. And so some of these teams, it's just a matter of inches and a point here and a point there. And a season that could have been very promising is kind of done. I love that the NFL League, the National Football League season is 16 games long. Makes every game so much more important. And it makes it tough because there's some really good teams that are going to miss the playoffs. Also at 2-4 at 23 on the board. They're in Cincinnati this week. So for Jacksonville fans, good news. The Bengals, not very good. The Bengals are really not very good. Like, as in extremely not very good for the most part. And so I would expect Jacksonville to win this one. But I don't want to give away all my picks right away because, when it comes to the Jets playing against the Patriots, who might I take in that one? Number 22, these guys are 2-4. Before the season, we heard about how great they were going to be. Do they have this week off? I'm looking to see if I have them on here. Because I wrote down all the matchups. I didn't write down who has the buys. Looks like Cleveland has one. For Cleveland, they're Cleveland. I don't know how else to put it. They're Cleveland. The Browns. This is what happens to the Browns. This is what happens. They're 2-4 because of course they are. And before the season, it was, they could go 9-7. They could go 10-6. They might win their division. Now, they're 2-4. They're the Browns. They're Cleveland. There's no logo. I've always thought that not having a logo might be their problem. I mean, it's almost anything, right? Hey, they can cover up a Taylor Swift poster in LA and declare that that's the problem. Then I can go ahead and do something just as silly and declare that because the Browns don't really have a logo. Anyways, number 21, these guys are also 2-4. Let's see if they have the week off. I don't remember writing them down, and I didn't. Pittsburgh. Yeah, the Steelers are showing that they're competitive. The Steelers are also showing they have depth at quarterback. And they showed this week they can beat the Chargers, which is not nearly as difficult as it was supposed to be. The Chargers were supposed to be so much better. And for the Steelers, they were kind of expected to be better than 2-4 as well. The good news for them is this division still kind of looks wide open. I mean, I still look at it and go, it's Baltimore's division. But with some breaks and some help, like in a couple of weeks when Baltimore plays against the Patriots, if the Patriots can win that, if the Steelers can win between now and then, you never know. They might just get back into relevance. Number 20, these guys also 2-4. They're moving back into relevance. They absolutely are. I don't remember writing them down either. No, I did. They're at home against Kansas City. So for Denver, a game that 2 weeks ago would have felt like you look at it on the schedule and you go, oh, whatever. It's not a whatever. If they can beat Kansas City this week, Denver's back in a playoff hunt because that's just the way things work. This, and again, that's 16 game season and all that. Some divisions are stronger than others, and in this case, they may very well be able to take advantage. There are so many teams right now that are 3-3 and below, and in general, I think we're going to have at least one team with a 9-7 in the playoffs, and I think we may see an 8-8. We may see an 8-8 winner in the NFC East that ends up making the playoffs. Number 19. These guys are also 2-4. I don't remember writing them down. It's been so long since I wrote them down, though. I didn't write Tampa Bay down, so I'm assuming Tampa Bay has the week off. And Tampa Bay is hard luck. They are a hard luck franchise who may very well, if Denver wins, they'll definitely end up falling behind Denver. And then it's up to whatever they do the following week. But for Tampa, they've been close. They've had their chances. They're a good team. I would put Jacksonville in that category as well. And really, in all honesty, if you're a fan of any of these teams, they've had their chances. That's what's kind of torturous about the NFL season. Number 18. These guys are 3-2. They had the week off, and they moved up. I believe they moved up from last week. I think I had them at 19 last week. They moved up, and now they're in Green Bay. So if the Raiders are going to prove that they are a solid team and that they're capable of moving up, this is the week to do it. Go into Green Bay, and even if, how do I put this? If they lose to Green Bay and it's by like 3 or less points, that's impressive. If they beat Green Bay straight out, that's insane. Green Bay's looked really, really pretty good, and I say pretty good because again, there's parity, and the game was close with Green Bay. So last night's game was close. So I'm not going to say they look like a machine because it was close. But for the Raiders, if they can go in and beat Green Bay on the Tundra at Lambeau, that's saying something. And then, yeah, they'll take a major jump next week if they do that. But I want to see that consistency with the Raiders. Number 17, these guys are 2-1, and they're coming off that hard luck loss. Now they're at home against Minnesota. So if Detroit's going to prove my faith in them, and there is faith that I have in the Lions that they're better than their record, they have to prove it this week at home against Minnesota. They lose to Minnesota, drop to 2-3-1. Their road to the playoffs gets more and more murky from there. If they win and it's 3-2-1, you never know. I do like Detroit. I do like Stafford at quarterback. They just, again, close losses, barely lost, and you look, you go, gee, And if there's a team that could have been under the right circumstance, 5-0 right now, it would be Detroit. But, they had the tie. They've had 2 close losses. This is just their level of luck right now. Number 16. They're at home against Houston this week. 3-2. Speaking of luck, Indianapolis doesn't need them. And if they're going to take a major jump forward, a win this week at home against the Houston Texans would do that. Houston, there's people who've jumped on, all right, Houston's great. Everybody loves Houston. I'm not there yet. I know Houston was in the playoffs last year. I like Houston. Houston was a hard luck team early last year and then came through and ended up making the playoffs. I'm not on that Houston bandwagon yet, but I'm getting there. But Indianapolis can derail that whole idea with a win this week, and they can push their way up as well. So if Indianapolis is gonna make some waves, this week is a good week to do it. Number 15, these guys are 3-3. What a precipitous fall we're looking at here, and they're at home against Philadelphia. So the winner of this game is going to be the leader of a division, and that's Dallas. Now, I've seen a power ranking today which had Dallas down at, I think, 17. When you lose to the New York Jets, you're going to take a massive fall. I haven't dropped them as far as that other ranking I saw, but you can't lose that game. And now they're playing against the Eagles. And yeah, for Dallas, this is kind of a big week. They could go from, hey, look, these guys are contenders, to we may not see them in the playoffs in less than a month. I love the NFL. Number 14, these guys are also 3-3, and these guys look like a juggernaut too. Now they're going to Atlanta. A lot of pressure on the Rams. For Atlanta, if they can put up some points early on the Rams and make them doubt themselves, the Rams could fall to 3-4. A team that coming into this season, the Rams are contenders. They're great. This is going to be a great year. And it looked early on like, everything's lining up. And now it's all kind of falling apart. The Niners have taken over that division, and second place in that division belongs solidly right now to the Seahawks. So the Rams have fallen way off. The Rams and the Cowboys, who looked early on contenders, and then nope. Number 13, these guys are also 3-3. They will be playing at Dallas this week, and that's the Eagles. So if the Eagles are going to make some hay, as I said with Indianapolis, this is a good week for Philadelphia to do it. I don't know where I stand with the Eagles. I don't know how much I see them as being capable of winning, should they make the playoffs this year. But they're just really an up and down team. Very, very unpredictable. Number 12, moving into the teams that are above 500. So there are 12 teams in the football world that are above 500. At 4-2. And really, in all honesty, these guys were left for dead not that long ago. And don't see them on the board this week. So it could be a bye week for Carolina. Who knew? Who knew that what they needed was Cam Newton to get injured? And ever since then, they've been fine. So ever since that week that he was out, I'm pretty sure they're 4-0. Pretty sure they started 0-2. And it was all right. This team is a disaster. And then, nope, they're good. They're 4-2. Right now, they look like they should be a playoff team. So the Panthers, good on them. Nice to see. And when everybody's healthy, they're going to be really dangerous come playoff time. I don't see any way they don't make the playoffs right now. But again, you look at Dallas, you look at the Rams, things can change very, very quickly in the National Football League. Number 11, these guys are 4-2. They are playing in Seattle this week. You want a game of the week? The Ravens and the Seahawks should be the game of the week. That should be the best game of the week. And I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a situation where you can argue that another game deserves to be mentioned. For Baltimore, that division is theirs. If they finish 9-7, I don't see anybody in their division catching them. If they finish 10-6, it's 100% theirs. But 9-7, I think, is a record they can get. Honestly, 8-8 with Cleveland and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. They could go 8-8 and win that division. So the motivation for them is going to be, you're looking at trying to motivate yourself to get a bye. You're trying to motivate yourself for home field advantage and this kind of thing. So Baltimore will still have something to play for, but it's going to be an interesting matchup between them and Seattle this week. Matchup of teams that have birds as their logos. A lot of teams that have birds in their logos in football and baseball. I'm trying to think with hockey. There doesn't seem to be as many. I mean, there's some, but there's not as many. Anyways, number 10. What is it with birds? Is it because you throw the ball? Anyways, number 10. These guys are coming off of a bye week. They're at home against New Orleans. So another game that could be game of the week is the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. Chicago, if they can get their offense going and if that defense remains really, really strong, they can pull off an upset win over a Saints team that has got better without Drew Brees. It's really weird, isn't it? You see a quarterback go down and everybody goes, well, that's it. The quarterback's done. That's it. Their season's over. And then in some cases, the team gets better while that quarterback's out. Maybe you're overly relying on your quarterback, and without him you go, all right, we got to use all our other weapons. And then you find out, hey, our other weapons are pretty good. Number 9, 4-2. And this week, they're in Indianapolis. And that is the Houston Texans. Again, The Texans have moved up. The Texans spent a lot of the season down in this area. They've moved up to number 9. I don't have them in the top row yet. If they win this week, they will end up in the top row because somebody in the top row is going to end up falling out of it. But yeah, Houston's been very good. I like Houston. Again, I'm a fan of the Bengals. I'm a fan of the Chargers. But I do like what Houston's been doing, and I do hope that they continue on this run they've been on. At 4-1, these guys are in 8th spot. They're still in the top row. And the funny thing is, as I mentioned earlier, Buffalo's at home to Miami. So if/when they go to 5-1, people are still going to say, Buffalo hasn't played anybody. Buffalo's not that good. Buffalo's really not very good. Buffalo's overrated. Buffalo's not very good. The reality is Buffalo that good? I don't know that we know yet, but they did pretty well against the Patriots. So once they get past Miami this week, we'll get a better idea of where they're at after this week. But again, if Miami goes in and either keeps this game really close with Buffalo, or if they somehow, I'm sorry Miami, you're not going to, but if they somehow were to beat them, I'm sorry Miami, you're not going to, then we would have a totally different discussion to have about Buffalo next week. Number 7. And these guys are in Detroit this week. They're 4-2, and that's the Vikings. I don't know with the Vikings. I don't know what to expect. And with the Vikings, I debated about having them behind Buffalo and Houston and maybe even Chicago. But at 4-2, and they've been good more often than they've been bad. So who knows what you're getting with the Vikings? This is a team that could go 10-6 and going into the playoffs. We still don't know where they're at. How much faith do they have in their offense and in their quarterback? How much faith do they have in themselves? So again, it can vary from week to week. This is a key week for them though, and playing in Detroit, it should be a test. It should be a test that they pass. This is something that Minnesota should be able to win that, but again, we'll see, right? Number 6, these guys are 4-2. Kansas City's going to Denver, and here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. Bar none. Do I think Kansas City's the best team? No. Is it troubling that they've lost back-to-back games? Yep. That 4th win, was that kind of a fortunate win? Absolutely. So with Kansas City, they're kind of lucky they're not 3-3. Now, playing Denver, this is a game they should win. And if they don't, they will probably find themselves outside the top row next week. Kansas City is a franchise that seems to have all the pieces in place, but I don't know. I don't see a team right now and say, yep, they're very likely to be in the Super Bowl conversation. Now, in terms of contenders at number 5, they're at home against Baltimore this week. They're 5-1, and that's Seattle. And I've been criticized for having Seattle too high, and yet week to week to week, Seattle's staying at or near the top. And, they've been in the top row. I'm pretty sure every week I've done these power rankings. Every week, Seattle's in the top row. And I don't see any reason to drop them out now. Now, if Baltimore goes into Seattle and beats them, it would be very hard for me to argue that Baltimore belongs behind Seattle if they're both 5-2, based on Baltimore going into Seattle and beating them. If Seattle wins at home against Baltimore, I can then make a very good argument that Seattle is for real, and that this resurgence of the Seahawks is attainable for this season. They should at least be 10-6. Right now at 5-1, you can see them going 9-7 at the very least. That's 4-6 from here. 5-5 gets them to 10-6. So a 10-6 record is within their grasp, especially if they beat Baltimore. They beat Baltimore, 10-6 becomes the very least you would be looking for as a Seattle fan. You'd be more likely to want 11-5. Number 4, these guys are also 5-1, and they're skating by, and now they're at home against Oakland, Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I love just the Lambeau field and the feel of it and everything. Last week I talked about how it would be great to see a Super Bowl in the cold. And I know people are like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because honestly, football can be played in Lambeau Field in December. If we're so terrified of playing a football game in the snow, then shut Lambeau Field down about forever. Because at any point during a football season, you can get snow in Green Bay. It is part of the game. So my argument is this. Green Bay, let's say Green Bay goes to like 13-3. Let's say they get home field all the way through the NFC playoffs. And they've got that fantastic advantage of Lambeau Field, right? The frozen tundra. And then you go to Super Bowl, and it's nice, and it's warm, and it's a dome. Wherever you play the Super Bowl, it's going to be warmer, it's going to be a dome, right? So they fought all year on Lambeau. They fought all year to get home field advantage, and now in the Super Bowl, you're telling them, that's nice, but we're going to put you in a situation where everything's neutral and you've lost that advantage. And this is where I understand the Super Bowl's in third-party locations, and it's not, it moves every year, and it's this big thing. But as a sports fan, there's part of me that just feels like if you've played on that field, New England even, they play in the snow, and, it will snow in Boston, so, Foxborough. But, yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of sticks with me, that then when it comes to Super Bowl time, all right, we need a really sanitized, sterile, and warm environment, and we need to make sure everything's even and everything's fair. And I think, it wasn't fair when you lost at Lambeau because you slipped up in the rain and in the mud, or, you whatever happened with the snow, but guess what? That's their home field advantage, and then they lose it in the big game. Anyways, that was the point I was trying to make, and so I just kind of tried to make it again, which means people are going to take issue with it. Number 3, these guys are 5-0, and if San Francisco wins at Washington this week, it won't prove anything. People are still going to say they're overrated. They haven't lost a game yet. They're likely going to go 6-0. And again, even if they go 500 from here, right? Even if they go below 500 and they're 5-6 from here, the Niners are 10-6, and that should get you into the playoffs. So for the Niners, it's been a really nice run. They should at the very least be a playoff team. And who was picking them to make the playoffs before the season started? Not very many. May have been some, not very many. Everybody, this was the Rams division. This could have been the Rams' year. Number 2, at 5-1. And in all honesty, I don't know what's going on either, but they're going to Chicago, and we'll see if they can keep it up. New Orleans, amazing run. And again, absolutely proud to see a team go on a run. And it doesn't matter how they're doing it, just the fact they're 5-1. And it's a little bit everything when it comes to New Orleans. So for them to be at number 2 on this board at this point in the year, I didn't see that coming. But at 6-0, I did see New England coming. And of course, like I said, New England this week is going to New York to play against the Jets, and then they get to play against the Cleveland Browns after that. So they're going to go to 7-0 in all likelihoods, 8-0, and we still won't have any idea whether or not New England's actually a contender. And this has been amongst talk that Brady is slowing down, but with the talk that Gronkowski may be feeling that itch and he could come back at around the midway mark of the season and decide he's going to play again, don't count out New England for another Super Bowl. All right, there you go. Power rankings for Week 6. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And, I look forward to finding out why I'm wrong this week, as I do every week with hockey as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support, and I will talk to you again soon.